Okay, so this is just going to tell us about the course. Like I said, this is fundamental, and as you can see, who is this course recommended for? This is just an IT um, background course. Like I said, gonna do this when we were more on the on-premises side. So I was saying on-premises then for people that are just coming into the cloud now, or coming into IT. You guys should remember that wherever you've worked in Nigeria or in the UK, there is one room we call the IT room or server room in your organization, and they will tell you out of band from non-IT guys. And this room, what does it contain? It has maybe a desktop that serves as a server, and or let's say a server, a rack server, or let's even say, okay, don't let me talk about servers now. A computer, you know, a computer that connect to other computers, that controls or manage other computers. I'm sure you guys will understand that term, and maybe they might have maybe some network cables. When you go into the office, they will tell you, okay, connect to that output, connect to that network cable, for you to be able to work. So we have this server room. That's what we call, we say on premise. When you go into the office, when we manage our maybe our applications, our file from a server that sits in a particular location we call an office. So we say that's on premise. So we've moved literally from that on premise into the cloud. And what this means is that particular server that is actually in your IT office doesn't sit down in that office anymore. It now sits in a location that we don't have access to that physical server anymore, but we can still communicate with it via the internet. Do you understand? It's just like this my system, yeah. If I give access to any one of you to connect to this system, and you're able to, save your file on this system, then I would say you are benefiting from what we call the cloud computing, because you don't have access to that particular system. However, you have access to the files in there. A very good example of that is your Google Drive. All of us saves our files on Google Drive, and for people that have used OneDrive also, anything drive like Google Drive, like your Gmail, your your Yahoo Mail, all these things you've benefited from cloud computing. Yahoo, you are putting in your email credentials in there, and anytime you go to your mailbox, you have access to your mails, regardless of your location, regardless of the device you are accessing those emails from. Anywhere you are. If you lose your phone today, or you change your phone, and that's try to set up a new phone, it will start downloading all your emails over and over again. Those emails, at least they are files that are stored somewhere. That means they've stored in a location where you don't know, but however they sit on a computer. It's not as if they are just in the sky. They sit in someone's computer, and that's why you are able to download those emails again. That's why all the files that you put into your Google Drive, all the photos that you put in your Google Photos, regardless of the device, regardless of the phone you are accessing with it, regardless of your location, as far as you have internet, you will be able to have access, to that drive, have access to that photos you've put in Google. So that's just the cloud. The cloud is still our physical machine, like this my laptop that I'm connecting from. You know, it sits in a location that I don't have access to. Do you understand? And those locations, we call them data centers. So data centers, just think of that data center the same way I've explained your IT room, you know, in those physical locations. Now, those IT room doesn't sit, in our office. When they sit in a different location, where we have a whole lot of, computers that are hosting all our applications, computers that are hosting, our website. So when I talk about applications, I'm sure you guys use application on your phones, on the system, those applications, especially let's say the banking applications, you know that at least you go in there, it will never mix up your balance. That means, let's say there's something storing that particular information of you. When you register on your Zenith Bank, mobile app, anytime you try to log into that application, it asks for your username and password. It tries to check it if you are a registered person or registered, you're a registered account holder, and it signs you in, or it logs you in into that particular application. That shows that, your credentials or your account already exist. And that means there is a particular system that is trying to fetch out your information, and that system, you do not have access to it. However, there are some people that manages that particular system. It's just the same way, we have it in the cloud. Now, we want to have some services, we have to have some files saved in a secured location that we feel anytime we want to access it, we'll get it. And Google Drive is a very good example. You know, anytime you go to your Google Drive, you will see your files, you see your folders, that means Google Drive is actually a storage account saved on a particular computer somewhere, and you are able to access it because there are people managing it. Once they turn off that particular system where your Google Drive information is, you will not be able to access it. And you'll be like, are you saying for years now that I've been using Google Drive, they've never turned off that particular system? Yes, they do turn it off, but you will not know. So we'll explain all those concepts, that cloud brings to you, you know, to manages all those things. So if you have any question at any time, please, you can raise up your hand or unmute your mic. If you're not getting anything, please do let me know. The fundamental is very important. So this is not applicable to us, especially this is, let's say we are having a full day and we'll have used this. So I'm just going to just keep this. Yes. So at the end of this, everyone in this class will be able to take the fundamental exam, which is free, and I will tell you how to at least get the voucher to be able to complete it. But that's not the first thing. I'm not an advocate of certifications. I would rather let you understand the technology first before pushing out for certifications. Yes, you can become certified. Yeah. So I'm just going to start, start sharing the real course, then we can start talking about it. Um, I think we still have some minutes to go. Please, are you guys good? Are we good? Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Cool. So now I'm going to start this. This is our learning part. We have 4 learning parts. Is it 4, 3? So sorry. I think we have yeah, we have 3 learning parts, and each learning part, that different concept, different services, being discussed under each of these learning parts. And we are going to start from the basic, where we talk about what is cloud computing, what are some of the services, that we're using cloud computing, you know. So yeah, so sorry. All right. So the learning parts, like I said, this is what we'll be learning today. We might not be able to finish it up today based on the fact that we've taken some time to at least learn about the course and also learn about, the other people that are actually on this call. So here and this learning part, we are going to be learning what is cloud computing, shared responsibilities, cloud models, capital and operating cost. Like I said, we have lots of jargons, that we'll be talking about. These are technical jargons, but for the little I've talked about, this cloud computing before we dive into this, and anyone, just give me an idea of what you think cloud computing would be, based on the explanation on Google Drive, Google Photos, and anyone. What will you presume that?
Hello, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, basically, cloud computing is sort of like uh, a place where data are being stored, by different individual, but owned by certain people or group of people. That anyone who's asked for access can actually go and access whatever they might have stored on the cloud every now and then.
all right. Thanks, um, Ajibola. So, any other person wants to try? Don't be too shy. This is just a class. Okay, so let's start this. So cloud computing. So this is what we're going to be talking about under the cloud computing, and we'll talk about the cloud computing itself. Then we'll define what are some of the cloud models, which you can see, which includes the private, public, and hybrid. So what is private cloud? What is public cloud? What is hybrid cloud? Then we identified some use cases of cloud services, of cloud models. At what time is it appropriate for us to use the private, the public, and the private cloud? And what do we even describe as the consumption-based models? The cloud pricing models. So we should be able to have this done today. Then I think tomorrow, sorry, the next time we can start talking about the benefits and the cloud service types. So let's dive into this. Now, I've actually explained that, the traditional way of accessing our files, our applications, our folder. So most of the time you will hear me talk about applications. So just see those applications as the website, the way you guys know it. We call it web applications. So I might call it web application in IT. So you guys need to start understanding those terms. So web applications, yes, is the website that we say, where is the website? What's the website? So we call it web application. There are some other terms that I'll be using, like when we say, okay, I want to log into this, we don't call it login, we call it authenticate. So when you hear me talks, or when you hear me say authenticate, you understand that I'm talking about signing in or logging in, into something or an application. Then you might hear me talk about the term authorize. So so to authorize is give permission, give access. So those are some of the terms we might come across while we're talking about this, our cloud computing. So now, as you can see on here, we have cloud computing as, the delivery of computing services. That same computing services, those infrastructures that we have on our on-premises environment, that particular laptop that you are using, that phone you are using now, that desktop machine that you've once had, or let's say the server. The server is not different from the normal monitor, desktop computer that we have then, or let's say the our laptop is not different. The only difference is the operating system running on it. You know, it's different. It's a server operating system. And what the server operating system does is it allows you to be able to manage, other computers and users. So imagine when you join an organization, they'll give you a laptop and say, yes, you can sign in with your username and password. We've created it for you. So, and you imagine, where was this created? So it was created on the server, because that's where we manage the users, from, and we manage the device that have been assigned to you from. And so you just get that idea that there is actually a system that oversees the management of the other system. That, so when you go into the office, you put in your password and email, or password and username, then you are able to authenticate into your system, to sign in into your system. Sometimes they might tell you, okay, connect to this Wi-Fi, you know or connect to this cable. In that regard, we are talking about what we call networking. When we try to allow computers to talk to each other, we need what we call a network to allow them to talk to each other. And that's the benefit of the Wi-Fi. That's the benefit of those cables, that you see around in your office that time. Then the storage, I talked about storage as like your Google Drive is a storage account. Basically, what you can do on the Google Drive is for you to, put in your files and folders so that you can access it from anywhere in the world, from any system or any device. And that's the same thing that we have on the screen, saying cloud computing is delivery of computing services over the internet. So that's why you will meet people, they'll say, oh, I'm a tech guy, I work from home. Do you understand? I work from home, and you'll be like, Baba, on Gbadun, you work from home. You don't go to the office. How do you even work? Because the services we are working on doesn't require to be in any location. Even when we go to the location, it's just like a waste of time for us, because you will still connect over the internet to the services you'll be working on. So why do you want me to be in the office? And that's why you will see remote jobs. Most tech guys will say, they will tell you, oh, the only thing I want is a remote job. At least I was doing a remote from 2021 till like joining Switch, spent like 4 months on premises. It was an hybrid role, then went back to remote again. And the good thing is, at least remote job, you can be anywhere, you can work from anywhere, but sometimes it might be boring, you know. So because our type of job doesn't require us to be in the office every time, and that's why you will see cloud remote jobs, on all those platforms like LinkedIn and the like. So when you see something like compute, just take compute as your phone, think compute as your computer, your laptop. So when we talk about compute, we are talking about machines, we are talking about how can I computer system. Let me just put it like that. But you might not hear me talking about computer system. Going forward, I might be saying machines. When you hear me talk about virtual machines, machines, then I'm talking about compute. When you hear me talk about networking, just um, think of your Wi-Fi, think of your cable that we use to connect, to the network. Then when you hear me talk about storage, for now, think about the way Google Drive works. So all these things, now we don't need them in our physical location. We just need to connect to them. We can create all these guys, a machine in the cloud. We can create a network in the cloud. We can create a storage in the cloud. And that's what cloud computing is giving you. It's this delivery of this computing service over the internet, and it gives you a lot of innovation, flexible resources, and economy of space. Let's even talk about something here before we move on. Uh, how many of us remembered, that time we used to, write jump, and once the result is out, everybody will run to the, cyber cafe, buy that 15 minutes time, or 20 minutes, 30 minutes, at depending on the cyber cafe. And we buy 30 minutes for 100 naira, and at the end of the day, you will still not be able to check your jam result, because everybody is trying to, you know get their result at that particular time. Then the jam web app, which is the website, will be dragging. you know the reason being that there are a lot of people trying to get, into that particular um website at that particular time to check their result. So another thing I want to tell you here, when I said a lot of people are trying to solve that particular jump website, so next time you might not hear me talk about that kind of term. I might say there are a lot of traffic coming into the application. Just understand that that's the same thing I mean, that a lot of people are trying to access, that particular website. So I would say there are a lot of traffic coming into that particular website. You know, so Jamb is a very typical example. If you remember also, I think in 2016, sorry, 2015, 2014, when Jumia came, they did their first Black Friday. I think it was 2014 or 2015, and a lot of people was trying to get into the Jumia app to buy what they wanted, whatever they wanted to buy at that particular time. And Jumia sites crashed at some point because there was lots of traffic coming into that their application. So these are because the system that they are using to host that particular website is not flexible. It's not flexible in the sense that, when you buy your laptop, it comes with, let's say, 4 gig RAM and 500 HD. So when the 500 HD has, been consumed, there is no way you will add, more HD at that particular time, except if you go to Computer Village and you say, about me changes 1 TB, you still need to do some physical work on it, or even your system might be dragging and they will tell you, go and change the RAM to 8 gig RAM. So at that particular time, their laptop or the server that was hosting the application couldn't contain the traffic coming in again. Then the only thing they will resort to is the site will start dragging, and it will be very slow. Even your system does it sometimes, and you say, let's shut it down and try to reboot it again. So all these things are some of the benefit that cloud is coming in with, because cloud is scalable in the sense that you are buying the services. If you feel like, oh, there are a lot of traffic coming in, you'll tell your public cloud provider to say, help me scale this thing up. You don't have to do it manually. You can set it automatically to scale out. They will give you there will be another server that will be added, another server that will be added, another server that will be added to contain that traffic. And when there is no more traffic, then all those servers that were added will be discarded, and that's why, when I was listing some of the things we'll talk about, that's why you will see something like pay per consumption. So you only pay for what you use in the cloud. So we'll get there. It's just like, to tell you that there are a lot of benefit when it comes to cloud. Do we um, have an understanding of this? Do we have any question before I move ahead?
Yes, sorry. From this explanation, what I understood now is cloud is basically a virtual storage.
Not a virtual storage. So yeah, you can put it as, let's say, virtual storage, but it's not a virtual storage. Cloud is, like an environment. that gives you access to be able to deploy services that you can use, in hosting maybe your application, your files, and every other cloud computing or every other computing services. And these computing services can be accessed over the internet from anywhere in the world, from any device.
Thank you.
So for our first timers that are just coming into IT, do you guys have an understanding of what I've been explaining, or does it still look jargons to you? Anyone? All right. I will presume that's
Mr. Femi,
yes.
what I understand now is that we can just say cloud is just like that, like a virtual working environment,
Yeah.
like a working a space where some operations takes place. And you like that's what I just understand.
Yeah, you will still get there. You have a very good understanding at some point, but at least you've understood, what I'm trying to describe. But I can tell you, you still get a very good understanding of what I'm trying to say at the later stage. But at least just think of cloud computing as, that's delivery of computing services over the internet, as for now. So we'll move on. The next thing is, we'll talk about some of the cloud models, and I'm going to start by, explaining how we got to the cloud. Like I said, the traditional way of doing things was the on-premises. The on-premises in the sense that that IT room that you guys have in your office, you know that's what we call the on-premise, because that is where the servers, the computers that are used in hosting the company files, that are used in hosting the company resources like the users, um users account, like the application that the company is running. For each organization that you work for, a whole lot of them, at least uses an application. It might be a financial application used for preparing payrolls for salary. It might be a retail application for retail organization that sells products. It might be, so all these applications are actually hosted somewhere. They're actually just the same way you've put in, your files and folders, your photos in Google Drive. That's the same way we put those applications on that, computers. That's the same way we host application. They are just files, they are just files that you access from anywhere. So that part you are seeing on, the website is called the front end, and that's why you are able to. So literally, think of website as just, combination of files and folders. You know, so that's just what website is. So they are just files that we store somewhere. So here we've explained that cloud computing is the delivery of computing services. So when we talk about computing services, we are talking about your computers, let's say your phones, your storage, which is maybe the hard drive on your system. We talk about maybe a whole lot of things. Just at least we have the knowledge of all those hard drive, all those computer, your laptop, your phone, they are now stored in a location. In a location, let's say we have a data center in Nigeria that is offering cloud computing. Most of us are now in the UK, but we have stored our files in that data center that sits in Lagos. But when we are here in the UK, we are still able to access that file because they've put it up into, maybe a website where we can go in, log into that website. When we authenticate with our own username and password, we still have access to our file. So we'll say that particular data center or that particular IT center is offering what we call a cloud computing service, because from anywhere in the world we are still able to access those files and services. Now, there are different cloud models, and yeah, we currently have three cloud models, which are the private, the public, and the hybrid. Now, when we talk about the private cloud, organizations are saying, yes, Microsoft is a public service, cloud service provider. Amazon AWS is a public cloud provider. Google, I'm sure you've heard of all these big names. Oracle, they are public cloud provider. They are saying, yes, if you want to access our website, our cloud computing, we have it for the public, regardless of the organization that you are. So just buy it from us and it's fine. So we can assure you that your competitors are not going to see your files. They are not going to have access. We are the one managing it, and you feel like, yes, it's safe. I can only pay for what I don't have to go and buy servers and put them. I will buy server 1.2 million. I will still call people to come and network the office. Then I will buy. So my team is not even in Nigeria. I don't want to have an office. I just want to be working from home. So I can set up, a remote team, and we just talk. But all those teams, we can still set them physical system, but all those systems we need to control, be able to have access to those systems. So we can have like a server in the cloud that still controls all those systems regardless of where they are. And this is one of the things, this cloud computing is offering. So we can have the private cloud in the sense that organizations are saying, no, we don't want to mix up, because we are security organization. We don't want to mix up, our files and folders with some other organization. Can you help us set up our own cloud? We have an IT room, or we have a data center somewhere. Help us upgrade this data center to be able to offer, a cloud service. Offer a cloud service in what sense? So that anyone working with us, or maybe our users, can access, you know, our files and folders from anywhere they are over the internet. That's just the cloud. So we are still talking about the normal traditional IT room, the normal traditional data center, but what they do now is they sit in a location which we don't have access to. you know but we have access to use those services even when we don't have access to the physical machines, physical hard drive, but we can still store our informations. We can still put our applications on there. And so for private cloud, we are saying we only want to be using this particular cloud. It's just for our organization, and with that we'll call it the private cloud. So only users within that organization can have access to that kind of cloud, and that's what we call the next one is the public cloud, which is hosted by the cloud services like by Azure, AWS, Google GCP. And they say organizations, you can start putting your files and folders here. A very typical example of public cloud is the Google Drive. So we can put our file regardless of who you are. You can access Google Drive. The only thing is your credential is different from mine. What you will access is different from mine. And the truth is, you will see they will tell you have only 15 gig. That means on that particular computer that have 1 terabyte, we have a whole lot of people that are sharing the hard drive. However, we have created a folder for each user. You only have access to your folder, and you cannot have access to mine, even when every folders are actually on the same hard drive. And that's it. So we are saying, yes, I'm a public cloud provider. You guys can come and put your files, your application on our system. We'll manage it. However, you will be sharing this computer with some other people or with some other persons. So that's or some other organization. It's not specifically designed for a particular organization. It's meant for all, but only you can only access what you own. And that's what we call the public. Then the last model is the hybrid. which is the combination of two. The organization can say, yes, we have applications. We are thinking we should be saving our file on our own cloud because we feel it's safe. But for our application, because there might be traffic, surge at some point, and we don't want to, we want our system, to be able to cater for that incoming traffic. We are not sure if we are to do this. We need to go and start buying like 4 5 servers, and which we don't want to do. So because you start running generator 24/7, you have to call the network guys to come in. You need to employ a whole lot of IT staff to look at that. You need to buy maybe solar panel, and every time you change the batteries, and you feel like, no, we don't want to go with this. All those servers that are running our application, let them be in the cloud. So if there is anything, we know that our applications are up and running every time. Most times you will get a mail from banks to say we'll be performing our upgrade in maybe on the 24th of April, and at this time you will not be able to access your Zenith Bank application. So that means that server where that Zenith Bank application is being hosted is going to be turned off, and that's why they are telling you will not be able to access. But in the cloud, your server will always be up and running, except if you are using a virtual machine and you go there to turn it off yourself. But the plan is to have it up and running every time. And that was why, during the election, when INEC came to tell us, um, they were not able to upload to IREC or what's that application because Google was down, because AWS was down. As a cloud engineer, you see, you notice that they are only trying to fool the people, because there is what we call the redundancies in the cloud. When you put in so let me start with this. There is something we call the region. There's something we call the data center. So I've explained the data center as an IT office that then. Now, let's now say we have this particular IT office, this data center in 3 locations within Nigeria. You understand? Or 3 locations within the southwest, 3 locations within the southeast, 3 locations in the northeast, or let's say central north or something. Now, those three in the southwest, we'll call them a zone. So when you host your application, you can actually have your application running on, let's say there is one data center in Lagos, there is another one in Ogun State, there is another one in Ondo. So when you host your application will start running on the one in Ondo, Lagos, Ibadan. Then that's one zone. You can do dual zone, where it will be extended to the eastern part. Maybe it runs in Imo, Anambra, or let's say Enugu. Same application. And all these applications, we call them zones. So the old Nigeria, we call it a region. So within that particular region, your application will run maybe in 6 zones or 6 data centers. And we call something um, zone pair, in the sense that we have a region in Nigeria. Nigeria is a region because it contains different data centers. Then there is another region in Ghana. So when we host your application in one region, we replicate it automatically to another region. That means when your files and folders are sitting up in Nigeria region, if there is a downtime in Nigeria, let's say there is a riot and there is no light, there is no internet, automatically there will be a failover to a region in Ghana. So there is no way your application will be down and you will still not have access to it, except if the whole AWS was down completely. And when INEC came to say there was a downtime, I just laughed and I was like, yes, there's a foul play there. You understand? Because that's what we call the redundancy, and that's why we have the cloud. It will it will take you automatically to another region. You know, And that's why, one lady came out to say it was an AWS specialist, and was saying no, the services were up and running, and she was saying, the truth completely, because that's one of the benefit of the cloud. So you can say, yes, I want to take advantage of that benefit of the cloud, you know, of the public cloud hosted by AWS or Azure. Then we want to take advantage of the fact that we want to keep some sensitive files and folders on our own cloud environment. And if you are using the combination of the two, we call it an hybrid cloud, and that's what we see here. So let's just look at this cloud comparison, and we can call it a day, because there's past the time we've actually agreed on. So now this is just the comparison of these classes of these cloud models, where we have the public cloud, the private cloud, and the hybrid cloud. The good thing about the public cloud is you don't need to set up, you don't need to buy any server, you don't need to set up networking, you don't need to have an office, and that's why they are saying no capital expenditure, you know, to scale up. So nothing is, organization only pay for what they use. When you spin up your machine in the cloud, they will tell you, okay, if you are using this is how much it will cost you. If you discard it the next minute, you are not going to pay anything. If you have it on there and shut it down, you are not going to pay for some part of it. You understand? So you only be charged for what you use, and that's one good thing about public cloud. But for private, because you own it, you are the organization. It's just like you still having your IT room. So you go and buy server, you buy the rack, you bring in people to network the organization, so it's just as if you still have your IT room, and here you have to set up your hardware. Organization you have complete control on the resources and security. Like we said, if you are taking advantage of the security part of the hybrid cloud, you can say there are some sensitive files and information that you do not want to put on the public cloud, and you can have that one saved on your private cloud. So yeah, that's one good thing, but you will still be the one to manage, to maintain all the hardwares. It's not going to be maintained by the public um service provider. Then we'll talk about the hybrid cloud, which is flexible in the sense that you have two models to run to. You can decide to take, the public cloud. You can also decide to take the private. So depending on whatever you need to do. So organization have control on some parts, and the other part is being managed. So you only manage or maintain the parts that falls on the private cloud for you. The other is being managed by the public cloud provider. So these are the three models, and I think we should be good. Let me see the next slide, and yeah, so we can stop there. Okay, the can I quickly talk about these two slides, then we can call it a day.
Yeah, fine.
Yes.
All right. So here we're going to be talking about the capex and the opex. So this is another technical jargon, when it comes to IT. So when we say capex, we are talking about capital expenditure. This is the upfront. Like, when I was talking about the private cloud, or let's say our typical IT environment, we'll say, yes, we need to buy the server, the hardware, the printer, we need to start setting up organization. We'll buy generator, solar panel. That's an upfront cost, and that's what we call the capex. You know, in the cloud, you don't need any capex. You don't pay for anything upfront. You only pay for what you've used, and that's what we call the operation cost, and that's what we call the opex. So only the operations. But if you have an IT environment, you will still continue operating it. At least you buy diesel for your generator. When there is an issue with maybe the AC, you fix it. You buy another AC to start cooling, the IT room. You need to change the solar panel, or change the batteries. So these are after you spend a whole lot upfront also. If you calculate how much you spend and how much you will be running the same services in the cloud, you will see that you know you've gained a lot. I can From last year to this year, this new organization I'm working for has actually been able to save the IT, the cloud engineering team has actually been able to save the company over 200,000 pounds, just because all the services that were actually running on premises have been moved completely to the cloud, and that saved them a lot. To tell you, you do not have to worry. We can go to bed, we're not thinking about somebody have to be in the office today, because our server will be running in case NEPA takes off the light, so that you can quickly on the generator. I could remember that I was working with a retail organization, and I go there on Sundays to make sure the server is up and running. It's crazy. So that's the difference between the capital expenditure, which is the capex, and the opex. So there is an upfront when it comes to the capex, and when it comes to the opex, is not an upfront. You get billed based on what you use. It's a pay as you go model. Then the last slide talks about the consumption base, which I've actually explained that you are only going to be charged for what you use. So Azure, AWS, Google GCP, they give you that benefit, that opportunity to be able to say, at the end of the month, if I'm using this particular service, how much am I going to be paying back? So you can have what we call the cost prediction to say, yes, this is how much you will have to pay back at the end of the month if you are using this particular service, 24/7. So you can see those costing before you spin up any services in the cloud. You understand? You can say, at the end of the month, you have to pay $31 back. Emike, yeah, I don't have that. So something like that. So you'll be able to predict how much you'll be able to pay back at the end of the month. Then the billing is based on your actual usage. So if it's not something you've used, so if I spin up a virtual machine in the cloud now, and I set it to auto shut down when it's 11 o'clock, please shut down, because I don't need it again after 11 o'clock. And when it's shut down, Azure, AWS, or whoever cloud provider you are using will not bill you for that particular time when that machine has been put to off. And prices for individual resources and services are provided to you. It's not as if we say, everything that you have used this year is 31,000 pounds. No, for every services or resources that you spin up in the cloud, you will get a bill for each of it to say, this is what you use on networking, this is what you use on compute, this is what you use on storage and the like. So that's it. I think we can stop here. If you have any question before we call it a day, then the next class, we'll start talking about the cloud benefits and the likes. Any question from anyone?